We are halfway through the week. Good morning, by the way, and looking ahead to the weekend because Linda Mines is here getting us ready for the Armed Forces Day Parade. Good to see you.
Oh, it's so good to see you too, and yay, it's a fantastic week for Chattanooga.
It is. The weather forecast on Friday looks beautiful. I'm just kind of jumping in my conversation with you because we never have a short one, Linda.
We don't. There's just too much to talk about and too many things going on.
So Mickey McCamish was here on Monday, kind of getting us ready, reminding us it's going to be the 72nd year. We're the longest continuous running Armed Forces Day Parade in the country.
We are.
And this year when folks come out, they can still socially distance, but it's back to a typical parade, right?
It is back to a typical parade. You know, last year we had to do a modified parade where it was all mobile. It was a rolling parade. And that was very different from what we've been able to do historically. This year we're back to where the JROTC groups will be marching. The band will be marching from Sequatchie Valley. It's going to be absolutely fabulous. Over 130 units have already confirmed that they will be part of it. I'll be there. Lots of folks coming out to say thank you to our patriots, those who are currently serving, which is what Armed Forces Day is all about. But at the same time, it's a way to recognize our veterans because you're going to see a lot of Veterans Post, VFWs, VVA, who are veterans who are there saying thank you to those who are currently serving. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful coming together of the community.
So when you wanted to come on and talk today, of course, we'll talk about the parade and how much it would mean to all those currently serving veterans to see you down there cheering them on. But there's always history to tell.
Oh, there is. You know, and I wouldn't be a good historian if I wasn't sort of a history nerding out on everything. I love to remind people that the first parade was in 1949, and it was not billed as Armed Forces, it was a Veterans Parade. The announcement that the nation was being encouraged to have Armed Forces Day parades did not occur until the following year. But that very first parade, I love to talk about because the Grand Marshals were Charles Coolidge, Medal of Honor recipient from Chattanooga, and Sergeant Alvin C. York, Medal of Honor recipient from World War I. And they were the Grand Marshals together. But there's an iconic photograph that I think most people have probably seen of Sergeant York driving, Sergeant Coolidge in the front seat with him, and then Paul Huff and Raymond Cooley, both Medal of Honor recipients, who are riding in the back seat of the Jeep, the back seats. You have 4 Medal of Honor recipients leading that initial parade.
What is it about the dirt around here, Linda, that breeds this kind of patriotism?
Well, you know, we think about Tennessee volunteers. We think about from the Revolutionary War, the number of Revolutionary War patriots who founded this state as they moved westward out of North Carolina. And I think, you know, I attribute some of it to the fact that we are so heavily Scotch, Irish, German, people who have always longed for their freedom and who historically in Europe were denied their freedoms. And, you know, someone says someone's encroaching on our freedoms, and the Tennesseans just seem to say, we're there.
And you look back historically, and I might step on myself a little bit, but we didn't take anything for granted, right?
We did
it was
not.
up to you. If you wanted to farm your land, you had to farm your land. If you wanted whatever it was, you did it. And there was great pride in that. I feel like that's gotten a little bit diluted through the years, but hopefully
I think you're
not.
exactly right. We've become very comfortable with the blessings that we have, and not that life isn't still a struggle and life isn't still hard, but I think we've become accustomed to the fact that we have the right to speak freely, that we have the right to worship or choose not to worship. We can assemble peacefully for advocating change, all those sorts of things. And I think maybe we have gotten to a point that we forget that wasn't always true. And that those rights, those privileges, those responsibilities were bought for us by men and women who have served.
Okay, so Linda and I know each other personally. We're friends outside of the cameras being on. So sometimes it's hard for me to separate what you and I talk about over the lunch table versus what we talk about here.
True.
But we've had a lot of conversations lately about family, right? And the importance of staying close to your roots. And maybe that's a little bit of it. Most people watching probably remember growing up with family right around the corner, and maybe we don't live like that anymore. That no longer having that oral history so closely connected to you, maybe that breaks it down a little bit.
I think it does, because I mean, I know for me, I grew up in a rural community, one set of grandparents literally at the other end of the farm, the other set of grandparents 3 miles away. So I grew up listening to those stories. I grew up knowing family members that I never knew because I knew their stories. I knew those who had fought in World War I. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, had fought in World War I. I knew, I had some sense of how privileged I was to be from a family that was willing to stand up.
So maybe, as we're talking this morning, maybe you don't have grandchildren, but you have a neighbor next door.
Yes.
Or somebody in your life that you think they could really benefit from seeing what our country is in action, not just on a piece of paper.
Oh, that's so true. And I would love to encourage people, we're going to safely distance. Mayor Callie has been gracious to allow us to have a true parade. We want to be cautious, but I would encourage people to come out, line the streets, sort of see what it looks like to have that sort of freedom, to celebrate Armed Forces Day, to look at those veterans from World War II forward who are going to be participating in the parade, and those of us who will be participating because we love those people who have served.
And celebrate the good that is in our country.
Always. Celebrate the good, always.
Great to see you, my friend.
Always great.
Okay, so it's the Armed Forces Day Parade happening this Friday. Begins at 10:30, right?
It does.
The same parade route downtown. And so be there. You'll be part of history because we continue to be the longest running parade
Bring your flags.
in
Wave.
the country. We're back after this.
Every day, you wake up and drive to the factory, construction site, or that office that you call your job. And then, unexpectedly, you are injured on the job. If you are suffering from any type of on-the-job